So a while back I made a video talking about my preferred settings in Delta Force and explained what each of them did, but I want to make a more concise video talking about the ones that I feel have the most effect and will most improve your gameplay experience and potentially gameplay overall in Delta Force, because I've had countless people really wonder why I can pre-fire people so effectively in Delta Force. That's because obviously I changed my audio settings and also certain other settings that can really help bring your game to another level. So we're going to start off first in the graphics section. So the first thing that you're going to want to change is the scope magnification. Now I already have it set to off, but I'm just going to show you what on versus off looks like. So if we turn it on and then we go back into the firing range here, then I zoom in with my scope, you can see only the scope zooms in as opposed to the entire screen itself. Now you won't be able to see this on like a 1.2x scope like this, like a red dot, but with a magnified optic like this, you can see like the whole dummy disappears when I'm aiming like towards the left here. It's completely blocked by the housing of my scope. Now if you were to turn that setting off, go back into the graphics, set it off, and then it automatically applies, go back into the firing range, and then let's scope in once again and see what it does. So you can see the whole screen zooms in. Now you will have less peripheral vision doing this, but if you're aiming towards the dummy, you can see nothing disappears. Only the things that are in the housing disappear, as opposed to a large chunk that is now completely obfuscated by the zoom that the scope has. So this really helps you out if you're using magnified optics. At least you can see more around you and not have people be completely blocked off because the actual scope is zoomed in so much. The next one is something they added pretty recently. It's called Flash Eye Protection Mode. I believe it is maybe off by default, but basically if you have it off, if you get flashed, it's going to be completely white. Now if you turn it on, it's going to be black, which can really help mitigate how hurtful it is to your eyes getting actually flashed in the game. Now a lot of people, that might not bother them. Maybe I'm a little bit older, but having it set to white when you get flashed is just so horrifying and bad. So have this set to on. I think it will appease your eyes a lot. The next setting we're going to look at, and this isn't really so much a gameplay setting, albeit it does kind of affect when you're shooting a weapon, the recoil, the actual recoil of the weapon. You'll see there's like motion blur. So if you turn motion blur on, if we go back into the firing range here and we start firing this weapon, this one's not too bad. It doesn't have a ton of recoil, but as soon as you basically like move, there's going to be some type of motion blur every time you move your weapon. And it might actually be even easier to notice with the K416 that shoots incredibly fast. So let's just walk up here. You see how all the blur on the optic there, all around it, it is just horrifyingly awful to look at, honestly. So having that set to off, if we go back into the graphics, set it to off, then apply, and we're just going to reload this thing. There's no motion blur anymore. It's not all fuzzy around the optic. Now a lot of this stuff you'll also notice when you're running in game. The weapon will be motion blurred all around. It'll be like blurry to like make smoother animations, but I think it's just overall very distracting from the gameplay. So the next thing that we're going to change is called volumetric fog. So I'm going to point your attention to the left side of my screen here where there's all the trees. You can see it's somewhat kind of foggy and or blurry, but if you change volumetric fog and turn it all the way to low, you're going to see that it clears up quite a bit. There's like nothing obfuscating the trees here. It makes it a lot easier to see people at longer ranges. So I think it is very important to turn off. On trench lines, it's not too bad, but on maps like Threshold and Ascension, there is a lot of volumetric fog, which can make it harder for you to see enemies at longer ranges and to just pinpoint pixels moving around, which is obviously how you're able to spot enemies at longer ranges. The next thing I want to talk about is in the audio tab. So the first thing you're going to want to change here is HRTF. So basically what this does, if you change it to object-based binaural audio, it's really going to help you better position audio cues in the game, which is how I hear footsteps so clearly coming around a corner or running up behind me. Obviously, there are still audio issues within Delta Force, and I have a pretty good set of headphones, but having this turned on, I promise you, you will be able to pinpoint footsteps much better, and it will allow you to be able to pre-fire corners when you hear those people running up. And this is very useful, obviously, in situations where there's like only a single enemy coming up, or you're getting snuck up on, or somebody is coming and you're like by yourself. It's really going to allow you to take them by surprise and pre-fire the corners or get the jump on them because you know exactly where they are. Now, if you turn on object-based binaural audio, just don't forget to turn off spatial sound as it mentions here, which you can do by going to your sound settings, hardware and sound, then going to sound, and then just going to whatever sound input you're using, or output, sorry, go properties, and then go spatial sound and make sure it's turned off. The next things we're going to change are also in the audio tab. So the music, I just have it set very low to really limit how much noise there's happening at any given point in the game. I don't want to have music at the end of round happening and stuff like that. So that's like personal preference, but it still can distract you from overall gameplay. Now the next one, I didn't even know actually changed these audio cues in Delta Force, but if we turn UI volume all the way up, all the sounds you get every time somebody caps a flag, every time something specific happens in a match of Delta Force, you will hear super loud, and it can be very distracting. It can prevent you from hearing footsteps, gunfire, suppressed shots, a tank rolling up on you. So it's just really, really bad. And I didn't even know there was an option for this in the game, because I feel like UI volume isn't really the proper term for this, but turning this all the way down, or almost all the way down, will help you hear just better. There's going to be less confusing sounds happening at any given time. It is a life changer. And last but certainly not least, the voice volume. So the voice volume, you might think that this is the voice of your teammates in the squad, but no, it is the voice of the annoying announcer in a match of Delta Force that talks every time somebody caps a flag, neutralizes a flag, just like that. When you get to the 25% mark, honestly, I don't need that. I can just look with my eyeballs how many tickets we're at and what the ticket discrepancy is. So I just have this set completely to 0. If you hate the voice announcer volume, turn this down to 0 and you will be blessed by clean audio. Now, I would also show you guys how to change the INI config file in order to force raw mouse input, but unfortunately, as of I think the last week, they have announced that any changes to the INI config files, even if it's only enforcing raw mouse input, can be bannable. So I don't really want to show you guys that, because a lot of people were using the INI configs to completely remove foliage, trees, bushes, all that stuff, which can honestly explain why you sometimes get beamed and you're hiding in a bush or behind foliage. But they are looking into this, and I did speak to my contact over at the GFZ Delta Force security team and mentioned that if we can't modify the INI config files to force raw mouse input, that they should at least put an option in the game for us to be able to turn it on and off. So hopefully that comes down the pipeline in the near future. But with all that being said, I hope you found some maybe useful information in this video that might bring your game to the next level in Delta Force. If you have any other options that you think are a game changer, leave them in the comment section down below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.